Hello and welcome to another Naruto CCG Deck Profile video. Today I will be profiling a medical deck, and of course with any medical deck comes a lot of female support, and of course with any one of my decks you will not be just seeing the standard meta picks. You'll see a lot of spicy picks that I've decided to make to kind of customize my own build. As always, I play using the Untap and Midwest Tournament Discord rogue list, but for this deck I'll actually be tending towards more the Untap rogue list because of a few picks that I don't personally agree with and that I made before these rogue list changes happened, and I didn't really feel like modifying the deck to match. But of course, I will tell you every variation between the two, and I will tell you what is and is not limited, and how you might be able to change some things to match each preferred deck format. And of course, as always, you can find the full deck list down in the description below. You can copy paste it into Untap and make any modifications, see the cards, and move them around, change the numbers as you see fit. So without further ado, let us get right into it. We'll start off the list with a client, Futaba. It is a turn 1 client. Its effect is when you heal one or more of your injured ninjas, draw 1 card. The medical archetype has a lot of healing. Obviously, it's a medical archetype, and this is a very solid draw support for that archetype. Every time you heal one of your injured ninjas, specifically, you get to draw. Does not proc on healing already healed ninjas, which is a possibility that we will get into. But I do run this at 2 because you do want to see this pretty often. You have no way to search it out. I have tested running it at 3, but it does feel a little clunky, but then in games that you don't see this, you feel like you're not drawing enough, and it kind of is personal preference. I haven't really landed on a spot that I want to see this in, but for now I just run 2 of them. And lastly, for clients, I run 1 Amy. This card is limited to 1 in both of the formats, and it is a turn 1 client with the effect of when this client is put in play while you have 2 or more female ninjas or female clients in your village, you can look at all the cards in your opponent's hand to search for 1 jutsu or mission card and discard it. So first of all, this does count itself in the 2 female ninjas or female clients list. So you can have 1 female ninja on the field, put this card into play. Now you have 2, and it does count for that when it is put in play. So you don't need to have any more than 1 female on the field at the time of using this. You can also have 1 Futaba because it does count clients in that list, obviously. Seeing your opponent's hand is very beneficial. Knowing what they're using and what they're going to be planning, any jutsus they have, is very good. And because this is so early game, you can actually learn what kind of deck they're playing if you're playing in a more competitive setting that you might not know even what they're doing. So yeah, very powerful card, limited to 1 for good reason. Very good at all parts of the game. On to turn 0 ninjas. I run 3 Hotaru Katsuragi. Is water, wind, and turn 0. Its effect is when this ninja is put in play, flip a coin. If heads, draw 1 card. If tails, place a growth coin on this ninja. This effect is valid, so you can use it if you are going to be growthing while it is injured, which is important. This is probably the best turn 0 ninja in the entire game. So being female, being wind is just a boon for this deck specifically. But this is very useful because if you do put it in play and you happen to get the draw effect, not only do you get to draw, but that means that if you draw another one of these, you can growth over it, possibly draw again, or possibly get a second growth coin, one from putting this into play with growth and getting that coin, and then a second one from its effect, putting a second growth coin on it, making this a turn 5 ninja on potentially turn 1, which is very, very good. The growth coins obviously can also boost its support, something that this deck doesn't really need, but could come in handy if you need to shuffle things around, which is kind of going to happen often in this sort of deck. 3-0 is very good, pretty standard for turn 0s, and 0-0 for its injured status. It also has 2 mental power, which is going to come up a little bit, but isn't totally necessary, and is obviously a female. It is not medical, it is not medicine combat attribute, but it has all the other attributes that make it very worthwhile. Next, I run 2 Hanare, another very good wind female turn 0. Her effect is non-valid. When this ninja is put in play, your opponent reveals their hand. Again, a very good benefit along with Amy. In that case, if they reveal the mission card, you can draw one card, then move one card in your hand to your chakra area. Another draw effect early on in the game, as always, drawing is extremely important in any card game. The more cards you have in your hand, the more options you have. The more options you have, the better chance of winning. So just like Hanare, just like Hotaru, it is a 3-0 and 0-0 when injured. Also has 2 mental power, also female, also non-medical, non-medicine. Only difference is she doesn't have growth, and she can totally miss her effect if your opponent doesn't happen to have any mission cards in their hand. The charging one card to your chakra area does make it hand neutral, or I guess hand negative, if you count putting this into play as the count. But the movement to your chakra is actually kind of beneficial for this deck, as there are some effects that are good in the chakra area. So I will reference this when we get to those. But I do usually run 2 of these simply because it can be a dead card later on, especially without having growth. Next, I run 2 Sakura Haruno Kimono. The reason I run the Kimono version is because, 1, I run 3 other Sakuras, so I can't have the overlap in name. And the reason I run this over any of the childhood versions is that this is actually a Genin version, which means she does have the 3 mental power as opposed to all the childhoods, which only have 2. So that might not seem like a big difference, but it does come up a little bit later on. Her effect is also pretty relevant in the early game here. Both of them are valid. The first is when this ninja is put in play, flip a coin. The second is when you flip a coin due to one of your effects, such as when she is put into play. If the result is heads, draw one card. If tails, this ninja becomes a 0-0 during this turn. Obviously, the 0-0 is a big negative, but the 50% chance of drawing a card is pretty beneficial on her. Another benefit to this effect is that Hotaru also flips a coin when she is put into play, and that is an effect that is flipping a coin. So if you do happen to get Sakura on the field first and then flip your coin for her, you can draw a card. And then if you get Hotaru onto the field, you're going to be flipping for Hotaru to see if you can draw a card, and flipping for Sakura again to see if you can draw another card. So with both of these being put on the field, you have the potential to draw up to 3 cards off of the 2 of them. So that's actually pretty beneficial. She is not medical and is not medicine, unfortunately, but she does obviously have name Sakura, and she does have 2 support, which is pretty good. So overall, these are nice to have. The Sakuras I do run later on also do have growth, which is important because you're going to want to have her come in for free if at all possible. Next, I run 2 Gaara of the Desert Childhood, one of the only males in this entire deck. He is one of the best turn 0 wind ninjas and turn 0 ninjas in general, because his effect is when this ninja is put in play, draw 1 card. Valid, when this ninja is discarded due to the showdown, discard 1 card from your hand. So any effect that just draws you 1 card is extremely important. And typically, you don't want this to have the negative effect, obviously, but there are quite a few ways you can get around that. If the Gaara is removed by being put into a squad, obviously it's not being discarded due to the showdown. If it's jutsu, that's fine. If it's removed in any other sort of way, it's not going to be detrimental. And in a medical deck, you can prevent him from taking damage pretty easily anyway, or at least heal it off in the long run. So like the others, 3-0 and 0-0 when injured. Obviously is not female, is not medical, is not medicine. But does have Surge, which can come in handy sometimes. Surge is an effect that is while you have another ninja with the same name in your hand, you can discard that ninja during the exchange of Jutsu to give the one on the field +2/+2 for the rest of the turn. So that's actually kind of beneficial, because if you're going to be swinging out with this Gaara, and if for some reason they're not blocking it, you could surprise drop a Surge with another one in your hand and win 2 battle rewards. Or if they are going out to block it and either tying or getting over just by 1 because they're just trying to get that detrimental discard effect, you can Surge and actually win that fight and try to snowball off of that. So mainly this is in here for the draw, but it does come in handy with the Gaara and Temari squad that I'll be getting into at the very end of the video, because that squad is very, very good and is actually doubly as effective in this deck. And lastly, for turn 0s, I run 2 Temari. This is one of the most broken cards in the entire game, to the point where I don't even like to use it as it is ruled to work, because I fundamentally do not agree with the ruling, and I don't think that their consistency is valid in this ruling. But its effect is, during the exchange of Jutsu, you can change the positions of the ninja in this ninja's team. Like Gaara, she does have Surge. She does have 2 supports and 0 when injured. Is female, but is not medical, is not medicine. Now this effect is odd in that you are allowed to change the position of any of the ninjas, including removing your head ninja entirely and making all of the ninjas in this team back ninjas. So what this means is that during the showdown, you will have essentially no head ninja and only a back ninja of 2, giving your team a power of 2. The reason that this is ridiculous, in my opinion, is that when you are in the showdown, the only way you can injure a back ninja is by winning with an outstanding victory, which is winning the fight by 5 or more. The only way to win a fight against a team of 2 by 5 or more is by being 7 or more. So essentially on turn 0, you have a ninja who can not be damaged in any way except by a team of 7 or more, which is impossible in the first turn, pretty impossible in the first 2 turns, and at least semi-likely in the first 3 turns. But that's not even including the fact that you will be able to put more ninjas in this team anyway and stack up your defenses even more. So I just fundamentally don't agree with that ruling. I think it's ridiculous. I think this card is too good, but not broken. And I just don't agree that that's how it should work. But for the sake of tournaments, that is how everyone's going to be ruling it, so that is how it has to be ruled. So mostly I do run these at 2 because I have 2 Gaara of the Deserts for the squad. You could work out trying to get different Temari on the field, but I really didn't have the room, and I kind of just needed more turn 0s, so this is what I had to work with. On to turn 1s, I run 2 Ino Yamanaka, is the only Ino with wind. She is a medical, and she does have medicine as a combat attribute. She also has Surge, like the Temari and the Gaara. Her effect is, when this ninja blocks or when a ninja is surged, you can heal 1 ninja. It's very important. It's one of the ongoing automatic healing effects that I will have that aren't tied to a jutsu. And the second effect is also very important. It is valid. Your female and or medical ninjas get +1 entrance cost. So ninjas does mean that it is only the ones that are on the field. Ninja cards is how they specify any of them in your hand or in your deck, in your reinforcement deck, anything that isn't on the field. So this does only boost the ones that are on your field, not the ones that are in your hand, which is important. But yeah, the boost is very powerful, and obviously the heal effect is going to be able to proc like Futaba, proc some of your other effects, which is very handy. So I do run this at 2. I would run it at 3 if I had the room, but I just don't. Next is 2 Fuen. Fire Wind Ninja. She does have Ambush, so she's one of the only cards in this deck that can be used for hand costs safely. Her effect is, during the mission phase, you can injure this ninja. In that case, this ninja gets the following effect text during this turn. Valid. Effect texts of your opponent's ninjas that are sent out to battle are negated. So negation of effects is a very powerful effect. There are a lot of detrimental things that can happen on the EOJ, or even that are just continuous during the turn. For example, this would turn off Konohamaru Ninja Squad. This would turn off, I guess, a guy that can give you battle rewards and then delete a ninja. Obviously, wouldn't turn it off if it was put in play during the exchange of Jutsu. But anything that comes out during the battle, like is sent out on the field to battle, is negated. And that's a very powerful effect, but also being tied to injuring her is also a low-key beneficial effect for you also, because if you are winning, you're going to kind of almost stagnate a little bit because you're not going to be able to pull off your Futaba healings, and healing is kind of the main objective of a lot of these ninjas. So injuring your own ninja in order to get a good effect so that you can then heal it later and then injure her again to get a good effect is kind of a nice cyclical effect rotation going on. So I do run her at 2. She's not incredibly important, but having the ambush, having the injury, and having the negation is all very good. Lastly, for turn 2s, I do run one Konohamaru Ninja Squad, one of the only non-lightning or non-wind ninjas in this entire deck. Konohamaru Ninja Squad is very good. It has a mental power of 4, which is incredible, and its effect is also very good. When this ninja is put in play, reveal the top card of your deck, then move the card to your hand. This does not count as a draw. If there are any effects that proc off of a draw specifically, this does not activate them as it is a movement, which I think is stupid, but that is how it works. And its second effect is also incredibly powerful. Valid other leaf ninjas in this ninja's team cannot be affected by the effects of your opponent's ninjas. So pretty much every ninja in this deck is going to be leaf. But the most important ones are definitely going to be leaf, and you're going to put them in this team as well. And with the 3 support, it's going to be a very good back ninja to support them. This is mostly to prevent your ninjas from being negated. There's like Saburus that can negate from the hand. But actually that might not work with Konohamaru Ninja Squad because it is opponent's ninjas, not ninja cards. That's actually pretty interesting. But anyway... Zetsu, there's a tracking Zetsu that can turn off your effects. There's a tracking Hinata that can prevent you from using jutsus. There are just a lot of effects that are detrimental to ninjas that are staples in this game. So using this card to protect your cards from them is a very good effect. This is limited to 1 on both of the lists, and I run it in pretty much every deck possible. But being a female, as it is female and male, is a good boon for this deck as well, especially with the 4 mental power with a mission that we'll get into later. On to turn 3s, I run 2 Sakura Haruno Chakra Control. Her effect is during your mission phase, the attacker's mission phase, you can pay 1 wind chakra. Move 1 card from your discard pile to your chakra area. If the moved card was a wind card, heal 1 of your ninjas. So since most of the cards in this deck are wind, it's basically going to be a free heal on every one of your turns, as you can just basically flip-flop cards from your discard to your chakra and vice versa in order to get a heal every turn. The way this is ruled is similar to Animal Path, if you know how that is ruled, where because the cost is being paid before the effect goes off, you can simply pay the cost and then target your own card that you just moved for cost in the discard back into your chakra. However, this only works if there is another valid target, but since any valid target is just a card in your discard pile, as long as you have 1 card in your discard, you can essentially never move a card from your chakra. You don't have to keep flipping back and forth or making a decision of what to move. It's kind of confusing, but essentially you can say if Fuen is in your chakra area and you have a wind card in your discard pile, you can pay Fuen for the cost, move it to your discard, and then target Fuen in your discard and move her right back into the chakra. So you don't have to really make that choice. But this Sakura is one of the most important in the deck, and when we get into Jutsus, you will learn why. The ability to move cards from your discard into your chakra to keep them in your chakra is very beneficial. As I said earlier, there are cards that want to be in your chakra. Fuen is one of which for her ambush effect. But Sakura is one of the main ninjas in this entire deck. She is medical. She is mental power 3, which is very good. She is growth, so she can growth on top of the Kimono version on turn 0 and get you another free put in play on turn 3. She is medicine. And she has pretty good stats at 4-3, which is really good for support, but she can also be good in the front. And 0-2, so if she gets injured, she can be a good supporter as well. So I do run these at 2 because I do have one other Sakura that I think is important to have, but I definitely could see running this at 3 as well. And the other turn 3 Sakura is Sakura Reliance. Her effect is valid. When you put this ninja into play, you can heal one of your injured ninjas. Second effect is also valid. At the end of the turn that you healed one or more of your injured ninjas, you can draw 1 card. And the third effect is also valid when your other leaf ninjas get +1/+0. So I do only run this at 1 as opposed to 2 or even 3, because if you don't have access to automatic healing, the other effects aren't as beneficial. But she does pair very, very well with Futaba, because not only is she going to be healing on the turn she comes in to get a double draw off of her effect and Futaba's effect, every other turn after that, when you heal, such as with Ino, you'll get 2 more draws every single turn. Not only that, she gives a static buff of +1 to all of the other teams, or sorry, all of the other ninjas, which is probably a static +1 to each team, which is also very good. And she has the same stats as the other Sakura, 4-3-0-2, has all the same attributes, 3 mental power, growth, medical, medicine, etc. So yeah, I do run this at 1, just on the off chance that you do get to recycle healing over and over and over, and you can use this as opposed to that one. But once again, I do think the other one is slightly better for the purposes of this deck, but I have found that 2 and 1 is kind of a good cycle for this. And to round out turn 3s, I run 1 Tsunade Childhood. She does have 1 hand cost at turn 3, which is unfortunate, but she is very powerful. Her effect is, when this ninja's team wins a victory or an outstanding victory, you can randomly select up to 2 cards in your opponent's reinforcement deck and remove them or it from the game. So that's a very powerful effect. Randomly removing opponent's ninjas from their reinforcement deck is something that your opponent does not want to happen. This card, coupled with, I think, the other 2 cards that can remove from the reinforcement deck specifically, are pretty much entirely the reason why you run 15 no matter what. Even if you only need 3 reinforcement cards in your entire deck, the fact that this can remove randomly means you need to stack your entire deck with 15 so that there's a lower chance of her hitting them. Which is unfortunate when you have to buy cards or proxy them. But yeah, this is a reason why. She is very, very strong at turn 3 with 6 as a combat stat, and even 1 as support if she does get injured. But importantly, she does have medical. Even though she is the Genin, she does have medicine, and she is mental power 2. Obviously, she does have named Tsunade for some jutsus in the hand. But I do run this at just 1 because not only do you want another target for some jutsus on the early game, you want another Tsunade, you want another medical, but her effect doesn't directly benefit the deck. It's obviously a very good effect, but it doesn't really advance the game state medicine-wise. So I do run just 1 of them. On to turn 4s, I run 2 Shizune, the medical expert. Her effect is during your opponent's, your opponent's mission phase, you can pay 1 win chakra to heal target ninja. That ninja cannot be sent out to battle during this turn. So this effect is interesting because, first of all, you can legally heal already healed, like non-injured ninjas. The caveat to that is that any effects that proc off of requiring a heal do not activate if they're not injured. So for example, if there was a card that said, heal 1 ninja, in that case, give 1 damage to another ninja. This would not work if you healed a already healthy ninja, because the effect does need to turn them from injured to healthy. However, this card doesn't have the stipulation of healing. It just says to heal the target, and then separately, that target cannot be sent out to battle during this turn. So whether or not you heal someone that's injured or healthy, they are not going to be able to battle during that turn, which is incredibly strong. Paying 1 chakra to prevent your opponent's ninja from not battling, which means their entire team cannot battle, is ridiculous. Obviously, this is during the mission phase, so it will not prevent an entire team without any cost to it. So your opponent can respond either with missions or effects, and can even just go into their organization phase and move that ninja out of the team so that the rest of the team can battle. But still, if there's a very powerful ninja that you don't want to battle, you can simply pay 1 chakra and you won't battle it. Like, for example, if you're facing like a Rasengan heavy deck and your opponent has a Naruto, you can simply heal it, which is also going to be good because Narutos like to be injured. But then that Naruto can't go out to battle no matter what, unless they have some effect to negate it. So this card is very, very good. Medical, obviously. Only mental power of 1, which is unfortunate, but no hand cost, which is very good. 4/3 is pretty good on the head combat side and very good on the support side, so that's nice. But its effect is why it's in here mostly, as it is kind of a game winner in the late game. Lastly, for turn 4s, I run 1 Sasuke Uchiha, Cold-Headed. This might be kind of a weird pick, without looking into it. Sasuke, no medical, it's water, has nothing to do with female or medical at all. But its effect is very good for this. When this ninja is sent out to battle, you can give 1 damage to one of your other ninjas. In that case, select and give 1 damage to one of your opponent's ninjas with equal to or lower printed entrance cost than that ninja's. So not only can you facilitate the injury effect that we were talking about with Fuen, where you do want your ninjas to be injured so you can heal them, but it also lets you do it as a cost, which lets you damage something else. So you get a double benefit in a deck that can allow you to heal a lot. So for example, you could send out Sasuke, you could damage like your Sakura, and then give a damage to one of your opponent's ninjas with an entrance cost of 3 or less, which is going to be a lot of them on turn 4. And then you can heal your Sakura, draw 2 cards, possibly, and then continue on with your turn as if nothing happened. So I do only run 1 of these because it is sort of a win more effect. This isn't really what you're banking on, but if you can pick it up and get it to work, this is going to be very detrimental for your opponent, very beneficial for you. Obviously, it's not wind, no medical, no female, but its effect alone is worth putting at least 1 in your deck. And lastly, for ninjas, I skipped turns 5 entirely and go straight into turn 6 with a Tsunade breaking the seal. Turn 6, 1 hand cost. She is female, medical, medicine with 3 mental power. And her effect is valid during the exchange of jutsu. You can injure 1 ninja you control and then heal target ninja. In that case, if that ninja is in a team on the battlefield and your opponent controls it, that ninja becomes a standby ninja. So this is sort of what I was talking about with the Shizune effect, where this does require healing an injured ninja to get the rest of the effect off, because the "in that case" wording stipulates that the heal does have to happen, and the heal only happens for an injured ninja, if that makes sense. But that doesn't really make this card invalid, not in the literal sense, but in a meta usefulness sense, because if your opponent has any injured ninjas and you can just bump them from their team by injuring one of your ninjas, that is a game winner, a fight winner for sure. Once more, you could even heal one of your ninjas because it doesn't bump one of your ninjas if it's the one that's healed. So just overall, a very good card. For example, once again, if your opponent has a Naruto who wants to be injured, is going to be injured very often. If you have this card, and it doesn't even have to be on the field because it's just an exchange of jutsu effect, it doesn't have to be on the battlefield at all. It can be just back in the village. Your opponent really can't swing out with that Naruto without expecting it to be bounced, because all you have to do is injure another one of your ninjas, and then that Naruto is on standby. And because you can bounce someone from the opponent's team, you injuring your own ninja kind of isn't even a big deal, because the likelihood of you injuring your ninja and having your stats drop more than them losing a ninja entirely is pretty low. So yeah, this is just a very good round out card for the rest of the deck in the late game. And Tsunade and Medical are very good as well. Moving on to Jutsus, I run one Tsuchigumo style Forbidden Jutsu release Big Bang. It is a wind and lightning jutsu with a wind or lightning chakra cost. Its effect is charge one card, in that case draw 2 cards. As you know, this card is limited to 1 on both of the lists, and I run it in every single wind and or lightning deck that has even a slight amount of ability to run this card. It's very, very good. It's essentially just another draw mission that you can use on your opponent's turn. Drawing is one of the best effects you can do in the game, as I mentioned earlier. And as I also mentioned with the Hanare, the ability to put a card into your chakra from your hand is also not really a detriment for this deck, as there are things that want to be in there. So I do run this at 1. It is limited to 1. Run it in every single lightning and or wind deck. Next, I run 1 Reanimation Ninjutsu, also limited to 1, and I would not really recommend running it in every single wind deck, but it is very good in this specific deck. It has a cost of 1 wind or 2 of any color. Its effect is target 1 injured ninja. And the effect is heal the target or draw 1 card, which has been errated to heal the target and draw 1 card. Then, if the user has a medicine combat attribute, you can move 1 card from your discard pile to your hand. So very good for recycling jutsus, obviously. If you have something in your discard that you want to get back, you can do that because most of the cards in this deck do have the medicine. The draw is very good. The heal is going to be giving you effects with your Futabas. And Sakura is going to be able to cycle things out of the chakra into your discard for you to pick up anyway. So just a very good card for medical especially. Next, I run 2 Ferocious Punch. It is another wind jutsu with 1 wind and 1 colorless or 3 colorless cost. The requirements are female or medical, of which most of the cards of the deck are, but at least it has the female stipulation, so you can use this with some of the turn zeros that don't have the medical. And the effect is target 1 jutsu being played, negate the target and discard it. In that case, give 1 damage to the user of the target. There also is an expert effect with Tsunade, where you win 1 battle reward, and that does apply if the jutsu resolves successfully. So I do run 2 of these because you do have the Tsunade in the turn 3 earlier game. So you can use this if there's a jutsu going off to win an early battle reward. But jutsu negation is just pretty good in general. I have warmed up to it more in recent time, as before I was kind of focused more on cards that would disrupt, kind of send you to standby, and would pseudo negate in general. But the fact that this can be used on any jutsu being played from anywhere on the field, it doesn't have to be opposed, it doesn't even have to be close. You can just use this, if you're unblocked too. Gives it a little bit more value, and obviously the expert effect for Tsunade is very good, as is the damage to the target. Next, I run 2 Gale style Laser Circus, lightning and wind with a cost of 1 lightning and X colorless, or 1 wind and X colorless. Its effect is while X is 3 or more, meaning you paid 3 or more chakra as the colorless charge cost. This jutsu cannot be targeted by your opponent's effects, so that's very good. It wouldn't be able to be targeted by negations. Requirements: lightning plus entrance cost of 3 or more, or wind plus entrance cost of 3 or more. So really the only ninjas that can't use this beyond turn 3 are Sasuke. The effect is apply the following effects based on X, which is the number of cards you have paid. 1 or more, give 1 damage to 1 ninja opposing the user. 2 or more, injure 1 ninja. So this is a very good card because for just 2 bonus chakra for 3 total, you can snipe a ninja anywhere on the battlefield. It can be in a different team, it can be opposing, it can even be on standby in the village, and injure it, which is very good if they have some sort of really good effect, like they have a KNS somewhere, or they just have something sitting in the back that they're never going to send out to battle. You can kind of snipe this. If it's not valid, get rid of it. Otherwise, you are going to be able to also give one ninja to an one damage to an opposing ninja. So if you do want to just wipe something out, you can pay the 3 and just kill something outright. Or you can mix it around, deal 1 to someone in the opposing team to help win your battle, and then 1 to another opposing team to help win that battle. It's a very versatile jutsu, and with the ability to also make it untargetable, that's also very beneficial. So I do run this at 2 because obviously there is the requirement of being entrance cost of 3 or more, so it's not usable early, but it is still very good. Next, I run 2 reverse tetragram sealing jutsus. So this is the reason that I am stipulating that this is probably an Untap deck, because this is limited to 1 in the tournament Discord, but is unlimited, so you can run it at 3 on the Untap list. I do believe that this is fine at 3. Obviously, it's a very good jutsu, but the costs behind it and the requirements are very high, to the point where, yes, you can sort of cheese it a little bit, but you're going to have to put a lot of effort into it. And obviously, it's not infallible. There are a lot of ways around this, some of them basically free. So I don't think it deserves to be at 1. I think 2 is fine. I don't think there's a problem with 3, but if it was limited to 2, I think it would be okay. I just think 1 is a little overkill. But it is 2 wind, and the effect is that this jutsu cannot be negated. However, this does not mean that it can't be have its effect text changed. It can just fizzle if the effect can't really go off. So there are ways to get around it being unnegatable. The requirements are entrance cost of 5 or more, and the effect is remove the user from the game, then remove any number of your opponent's ninjas from the game whose total entrance cost is less than or equal to the user's. There's also an expert effect with Danzo where you draw 2 cards, but that is not a possibility to come up. Well, actually, it could be with reinforcements. But anyway, this is one of the main jutsus in the deck and kind of what the deck revolves around. I guess I should just get straight into explaining how this works. So there are multiple effects in this deck that allow you to boost the entrance cost of your ninjas, particularly Sakura. One of which was the Ino that we already saw, which boosts all the female and medical ninjas by 1 entrance cost anyway. But there's also this mission, Sakura's Desire, where while it's in your chakra area, your Sakura gets +1 entrance cost and +1 mental power. So the main key to the deck is to boost your Sakura's entrance cost on the field, really only by 2. Say if you have 2 of these in the chakra, 1 of these and 1 of Ino. Another mission that can boost it. There are quite a few ways to actually do that. And then on turn 3, hopefully, use your Sakura to reverse tetragram the entire field, because at that point they wouldn't have anything too high, so you would be able to get over it pretty easily. And then with the empty field, kind of move on from there and just kind of snowball out of control. So this is the main jutsu to be doing that. I only run 2 because 3 is very clunky. Obviously, you're not going to be doing this every game. This isn't like the strategy. It's not like Toads where, or at least my Toads, where you kind of want to be doing one thing specifically, and if that one thing doesn't work, it isn't going to be as optimal. The deck definitely works without this. So I do only run 2 because 3, if you draw 1 and you can't use it, it is very dead. But yeah, very powerful card, and kind of the crux of the deck, but not really reliant on it. Next is 2 Cherry Blossom Impact. It is a wind jutsu with 1 wind and 2 colorless requirements, chakra cost. And the requirements are Sakura Haruno plus Chunin or higher, which is just your turn 3 Sakuras, or Tsunade in general. So your turn 3 Tsunade and your turn 6 Tsunade can use this. So there are 4 targets for this, or users for this in your deck, which is pretty good. The effect is targets every ninja battling against the user with printed entrance cost equal to or lower than that of the users. Unfortunately, it is printed entrance cost and not just entrance cost, so your buffs aren't going to be applicable for that. But it's still very good. And the effect is the target becomes a standby ninja and give 1 damage to it. So this is essentially a Fear by Genjutsu used by a Genjutsu ninja. but anytime Sakura or Tsunade uses this. So this is basically a free win. It can obviously push everyone away if possible, getting you free battle rewards. It can give 1 damage, which is going to make a lot of those ninjas obsolete or dead, possibly. And it's pretty low cost at just being 3 and really just being Sakura and Tsunade that can use it. It's not like it has extreme stipulations. So this is a very good jutsu. Once again, I run it at 2 because there are limited amount of people who can use this. There are just 4 ninjas in the deck, but 4 is pretty good, and 2 of them, or 3 of them being like a main staple of the deck means that you can probably run this at least once a game. And lastly, for jutsus, I run 1 Hydro Pump. Once again, fitting in with the entrance cost theme. This is limited to 1 on both lists for good reasons. A very powerful deck card staple in pretty much every deck. The cost is 3 wind or 4 colorless, which is why it can be used in almost any deck, because you can just pay 4 of any chakra and get this off. Requirements are an entrance cost of 5 or more. Does not have to be original, so Sakura buffing herself can use this on turn 3 if possible. Target is 2 ninjas. It can be anywhere on the battlefield. They can be in the village. They don't have to be opposing or anything. The effect is move the target to the owner's hand, and Expert Puppet Master, which there are none of, discard the target instead. So moving ninjas to the hand is essentially a kill because they're going to be gone. They have to use another of their deploys to put it in play. And if you're using this on a ninja that is opposing you while you're attacking, obviously you might be able to get through and win battle rewards off of that. Not only that, just like with the other jutsus earlier, if they are in standby, this can still hit them and move them to their hand, so there's not really anywhere safe. And there might be mind games going on where they might know that you can play this, so they're worried about going out to block because they might lose the battle, but if they don't block, then you can just get a free return to the hand with this. So it's very strong, limited to 1. I honestly don't think it's necessary in a lot of decks. It's probably one of the worst limited cards in the game, but it is still very good, and when it goes off really hard, really fast. So yeah, still worth running, especially in a deck where you're going to be buffing your entrance cost. And one thing to note actually is that the way it's worded with the target being 2 ninjas, that means that there do have to be 2 ninjas on the field, unfortunately. So if you only have 1 ninja and your opponent only has 1 ninja, this jutsu must target your opponent's ninja and your ninja. Otherwise, the requirement target is not met, which is kind of unfortunate and doesn't really come up very often, and I honestly don't know if many people know that, but it is something to be aware of. On to missions. I start off with turn 2's 2 Indomitable Strengths. This is a storm mission, permanent for 3 turns, the coin being removed at the start of your turn. Target is 1 female ninja. Effect, the target gets +2, +0, +2 entrance cost, which is another way to get Sakura up to 5 with just 1 mission, and +2 mental power, which is also beneficial for another mission in a bit. The effect is when the target wins any victory or any battle reward, you can draw 1 card. So obviously that's just a very good draw effect, but the main purpose of this is the entrance cost buff. You can use just this 1 card if you don't have any Inos, don't have any Sakuras in your chakra. You can still use this for your Sakura on the field, buff her up to turn 5, and then drop your Hydro Pumps, drop your reverse Tetragrams. So I do run 2 of these because, like the others, the entrance cost buff is nice, but you don't want too much of a good thing so that you keep drawing into dead cards. But benefit being that it is still valuable for winning fights and then drawing cards off of those victories. Next, I run 2 Bad Dream. Its effect is permanent, turn 2 mission. When this mission's card effect is applied, if you have only female ninjas in play, meaning all of your ninjas on the field have female, it doesn't matter if they also have male, they just must have female. So Konohamaru Ninja Squad does not prevent this from going off as long as every other ninja on the field does have female. Draw 2 cards. Your female ninjas cannot be affected by the effects of your opponent's male ninjas. So once again, a very, very good card. Male ninjas kind of dominate this game. So being immune to their effects entirely is crazy. Like I was talking about, there was that guy before who can just give you battle rewards and kill your ninjas outright. They are now immune to that. Sasuke Freezing Eyes, they are completely immune to that. Being immune to male effects is kind of ridiculous. The good part is that you can still play this even if you have male ninjas on the field. You just don't get the draw. But the immunity to effects is kind of just the icing on the cake. And these do stack, not that it does anything different, but you can have two of these on the field at the same time to essentially make it so that your opponent can never get rid of it, because they'd have to drop too many resources into just knocking out these two cards. So very beneficial. I do run it at 2 over like another draw mission like Loss, because even though there is the slight chance that you'll have a male on the field with the Gaara, with the Sasuke, the chances are just higher that you won't, and so it's just better outright. Next, I run 1 Sakura's Confession. This is part of the reason why I run the Kimono Sakura on turn 0, because you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck, select one of them and move it to your hand, then return the rest to the top of your deck in any order. Then if you control a Sakura Haruno, you get to draw 1 card. So turn 2 is when you can use this, meaning if you have the Sakura Kimono on the field, you can still get this effect off and draw essentially 2 cards out of the 4, getting to pick which 2 it is that you get out of the 4. So it's just slightly better than a straight up draw, which is why I only run 1 of them, because it is not extremely good. But it is still very powerful, just to kind of filter what you're going to be getting next, even if you don't have the Sakura. And getting the 2 of any of the 4 is also very good, just straight up better than a draw 2. Next, I run 1 Sakura's Decision, another turn 2. The target is one of your female ninjas, and then the effect is injure the target. In that case, draw the same number of cards as the target's mental power. So once again, this is another way to injure your own ninjas so that you can facilitate the healing on them. And once again, because of the in that case, you do need to be injuring someone that is healthy, just like you need to be healing someone that is injured for the other in that case effects. So this is very good because, one, most of your females do have a pretty good mental power at probably an average of 2, but some of them actually have a very good mental power. The premier case of this being Konohamaru Ninja Squad. If you can target your KNS, injure it, and then draw 4 cards off of its mental power, that is the optimal usage of this card. However, because of the Sakura's Desires being in your chakra on buffing your mental power of Sakura as well, and your Indomitable Strengths adding mental power, you can actually have a Sakura with like 7 mental power potentially, getting injured and letting you draw 7 cards and then healing it right away and potentially drawing 2 more off of that. So this is a very good card. I wouldn't fault anyone for running this at 2 or even 3. If you wanted to like drop Sakura's Confessions for it, I think that would be useful. I just do run it at 1 because if you are behind and you can't really afford to injure your ninjas because either they're being injured already by your own effects or you don't really have the healing enough to keep up with it, this card can be a little bit of a dead card because you're not going to be able to use it either to its maximum potential or possibly at all. So I would only run 2 of them, but it's really personal preference at that point, I think. Lastly, for turn 2s, I run 1 Ino's Tears. Its effect is you discard 1 wind card. In that case, search your deck for 2 wind ninjas, reveal them, and move them to your hand. So it's a very, very good search, probably the best tutor in the entire game, outside of the advisors, but you know, nobody uses that, just me. But searching for 2 wind ninjas is so much better than searching for 1, and it's not even just twice as good. Because, for example, you can search for like a Sakura and Ino so that you can start getting Ino heals with the Sakura Reliance draws. You can draw your Sakura and Shizune to start healing and getting the draws off of that. You can do Tsunade Childhood because you know you have a cherry blossom in your hand. There's just a lot of reasons to want to search for 2, and this is just a very powerful way to do that. You can also search for your Temari and Gaara at the same time if you potentially know that you want to go into Temari Gaara squad. So I do only have room for 1. I kind of put more eggs in the basket of drawing than in searching. But I did really, really want this so that if you absolutely need some pieces, this option is there. You're not going to be running into this a lot, obviously, at 1, but hopefully it'll come in handy for when you absolutely need it. On to turn 3 missions. I run 3 Sakura's Desires. Kind of touched on this a little bit, but its effect is discard up to 2 wind cards in your hand. If you discarded 1 card, draw 3 cards. And if you discarded 2 cards, draw 4 cards. So this plus the hand cost plus the discard means that you're going to be going even no matter what you are discarding. But this is an extremely good filter, meaning that if your if your hand is just kind of really, really bad, this is going to be able to replace it at a very efficient rate. And secondary effect is actually the main reason to use this. So the actual replacement and draws is not really the main purpose. But I'll read it again. While this mission card is in your chakra area, your Sakura Haruno gets +1 entrance cost and +1 mental power. So the entrance cost is obviously the main purpose of this with the Sakuras. And the mental power, as we discussed, can be good for the decision. But yeah, this is the card you want to move into your chakra if possible, like with Hanare, with Sakura if it's in your discard. And the Sakura being able to keep this in your chakra area by just moving it and then moving it back into the chakra with its effect is kind of the main reason you want to run that Sakura, so that you can keep this in your chakra area but still get the healing effect from her. And even if you have to use this for a jutsu cost or something, you can get it back into the chakra, keep your entrance cost buff. So I do run this at 3. I think 2 is pushing it, and I definitely would not run this at 1. For as many entrance cost buffs as this deck has, you can feel that you're not going to get it a lot of the time, even though there are 3 of this, 2 of Ino, 2 of Indomitable Strength. So I do recommend having at least 2 of those. And lastly, turn 4s, there is no medical deck without Medical Ninja. Its effect is your teams with 1 or more Medical Ninjas can only be blocked by teams with 1 or more Medical Ninjas this turn. This card is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why it's not limited at all on the Untap list. It's also not limited on the Midwest tournament list, so you are free to run as many as you want. I think this card does deserve to be at 1 most likely. But 3 is too many because this is a late game mission and it will get clunky. So I think 2 is the perfect amount to be very, very good to the point where it's still limit worthy. So this is just the end game win the game effect. You drop this on turn 4 and you send out your Sakura, you send out your Tsunade Childhood, you send out your Shizune, you send out a team with your Ino, and your opponent can't block any of them unless they have like a Karin or maybe they have some Kabuto, but possibly not. There aren't a lot of staple medical cards that are just going to be thrown into non-medical decks, so this essentially means that your opponent can't block anything. But even if you do have non-medical teams, they can still go out and be unblocked, and then your non-medical teams can just be blocked. It doesn't really matter. So this is definitely the end game, just win the game mission. Definitely run it at 2. It's ridiculous, trust me. And that is the deck. Medical is definitely one of the more meta versions, I think, of like off meta decks, if that makes sense. It's very powerful, but it's never in the contender of like, oh, this deck is ridiculous, like BR flip or anything. It kind of just is very solid and very consistent. I just have my weird quirks that I like to do, and medical is kind of a good fit for fitting in weird things because they don't really have to do much by themselves. You know, they are medical, so they have good jutsus, so they can use their medical ninja's mission and kind of just steamroll that way. So yeah, there are kind of a lot of options if you wanted to filter through things, and I'll show you a couple alternate picks that you might want to consider. So the first is Chakra Slice. It is a water jutsu with 2 colorless cost, and requirements are printed entrance cost of 3 or more. The target is 1 ninja with an entrance cost equal to or lower than the user's. So importantly, that even though the requirement has a printed entrance cost requirement, the target can be less than the user's modified entrance cost. So keep that in mind. But the effect is change the target to injured status. Additionally, if the user has a medicine combat attribute, move this jutsu card to your hand. So this is one of those jutsus that's very good to just keep going over and over and over if you have the chakra for it. Kind of like Sharingan Kunai. It is a snipe, so it can be used on any ninja in the entire field, whether it's out on the battlefield or not. And because it changes to injured status, this bypasses any cards that cannot be injured or take damage. I think I've gone into this a little bit before, but it's kind of like how in Yu-Gi-Oh! The effect of deal 8,000 damage and the effect of set your opponent's life points to 0 are different. If your opponent can't take any life point damage, they can still have their life points set to 0. Kind of the same concept. You are not injuring anyone with this jutsu. You are simply turning them to injured status. They are being changed. They are not taking an effect, if that makes sense. So this is a pretty good jutsu for that. I did take it out because it didn't really see enough play, and honestly, the water symbol did hurt it a little bit. There are a couple effects in here that require wind, not even hand cost withstanding. So the water symbol hurt, and it wasn't really something that I wanted to spend the chakra on to spam. But I did have 2 of these in when I was testing. Secondly is Kick of Anger, wind jutsu with 2 wind cost. Requirements are female, and then the target is 1 ninja battling against the user. Injure the target if the target is a male ninja with an entrance cost less than or equal to the user's. Once again, modified is fine. The target becomes a standby ninja. This is kind of what I was using before Ferocious Strike because it does kind of fit the same bill. It can negate jutsus by making someone standby. It's usable by any female without entrance cost requirement. The only issue was if I needed this negate to be used by someone lower and they were using the jutsu with someone higher, obviously this can't work. And I really needed the jutsus to be negated by anyone because the jutsu is so important in this deck. You don't want it to really be affected by anything. So I did take this out, but it is more of a female rather than medical card, and I still think it's very good, and I ran it at 2 just like the Ferocious Strike when I was running it. Next is Wind Style Vacuum Blast. 2 wind cost plus X colorless. X can only be paid with the wind chakra, and its requirements are an entrance cost of 4 or more. So already this is either Sasuke, Shizune, or Sakura with entrance cost buffs, or Tsunade. The effect is the user gets plus X entrance cost during this turn. Then if the target's entrance cost is less than the user, modified is fine, return the target to the owner's hand. So this was another way I was trying to get extra entrance cost buffs in the deck, but this was kind of just overkill. And honestly, it requiring an entrance cost of 4 or more meant I needed to have one already, so it's more beneficial to just get a second one since I only need 1 more to kind of use what I want to use. And the thought process was originally that if I had nothing, at least I could drop this and get up there, pay 3 chakra to get myself to entrance cost of 5 so I could drop something else. But it's never really a situation where I don't have the things I need, but I do have like 6 chakra to spend. It also didn't help that you don't really want to use this unless the Sakura is ready to drop something. Like, yes, you can move someone to the hand and essentially kill them, but if you're using this as the entrance cost buff, you're really only going to be dropping this when you're going to kill everybody anyway. So it's kind of redundant in that aspect. The other thought was that maybe, okay, I do have all the pieces, I have all the chakra I need, but I just don't have the entrance cost. Like, I can use my jutsu, I'm turn 5, but they have more than I can wipe out with that jutsu. The thought was, okay, I can drop like 4 chakra, boost myself extra high to kill even more stuff. But once again, that's kind of just a win more situation, and the cards have to be so right just to get this and have it be usable to boost yourself to the level that you can just, not do it artificially. So I didn't think this was worth it. Once again, I was running it at 2. I think this is all like the same spot. I just kept swapping stuff in and out. Lastly, I ran a Stunning Strike. It's a very good jutsu with 3 colorless chakra. While this jutsu is on the chain, players cannot play cards or activate effects, which is the most important part. Target 1 ninja. The target cannot become the user of jutsu cards during this turn. And then expert female, you get +3/+3. So essentially, you're always going to get +3/+3 no matter what. And then 1 ninja is not going to be able to use jutsus. Typically, the you can't use jutsus are really, really bad because it only applies after the card resolves. So if you played one that is like typical, they could just respond to it with a jutsu and kill you before this goes off. But because this is makes it so that you can't do anything while it's on the chain, this is actually usable as I think most of them are trying to be. So yeah, this is a very, very good jutsu. 3 is just a little too high for me, especially when I can just try to negate anyway. Because I do have a lot of things I want in the chakra specifically. So me needing to pay a lot of chakra just to keep something going wasn't really something I wanted to do. So I just had 1, and it wasn't really even worth running the 1. Lastly, I do have these 2 Temari. Obviously, this is just another contender for alternate picks in this deck. The Temari I run at turn 0 is stupid, and I hate it, but I do run it because I needed more turn 0 space. If you have things that you wanted to take out, maybe the Fuens, maybe the Sakura's Confessions or something, and you wanted to swap the Temaris for a different turn 0, and then put these at turn 1 so you can still use the squad, this is definitely the card you want to do. This is one of the best turn 1s in the entire game. The effect is when this ninja is put in play, you can look at your opponent's hand, select 1 jutsu card in their hand, and move it to their chakra area. So it's very similar to Amy, and it functions very well together with Amy to kind of just drop this on a turn that you want to start doing stuff, get rid of their answer, and then do your stuff. It's also very good for, dropping, removing a card from their hand, and then you can go into your Temari Gaara squad, and then remove even more from their hand, and they draw even less. So yeah, just a very good card, worth considering as opposed to the turn 0. Then on to the reinforcements. There are kind of only a few of them. I do run 3 of the Danzo. This is really just in here for filler, but it is still useful, so you might as well run 3. It's only usable for Sasuke, so I guess keep that in mind. Its effect is sacrifice 1 Sharingan Eye Ninja. There's only 1. Valid, while this ninja is put in play, place X growth coins on this ninja, where X equals the sacrificed ninja's entrance cost, and this ninja gets the sacrificed ninja's characteristics. So it's only going to be Sasuke. He's going to get 4 growth coins on him. I don't know exactly when you would use this. I guess only if you knew that your Sasuke was irrelevant, if it was injured or something, and you had no way of healing it, which you're probably in a really bad spot if that's the case, but whatever. Maybe you just need an 8 beat stick or a 7 support. I don't know. But this is in here. Since there's a 1 hand cost, there's literally only 1 card you can use to hand cost for it, and that's the Sakura Reliance. but you don't really have any other options. There's only so many cards that you can reinforce in this deck, and that's one of them I chose. It's mostly filler anyway. The others are 3 Temari and Gaara squad, probably the best squad in the entire game. Its effect is, when this ninja is put in play, your opponent discards their hand. In that case, they draw cards equal to the number they discarded -1. Valid, your opponent's non-surge ninjas get -2 entrance cost. So this is one of the best cards in the game for a variety of reasons. Number one is that it is extremely easy to get the pieces for. Gaara Childhood qualifies as the Gaara and is one of the best cards in the game. Temari Windscythe, it qualifies for Temari and is one of the best cards in the game. Temari Expert Tactician qualifies for Temari and is one of the best cards in the game. Secondly, your pieces for it are very expendable. This Temari is useless after she's hit the field and done her thing. Gaara absolutely does not want to die in the showdown, and this is a way to get rid of him to do that. Third, removing the hand is essentially resetting your opponent's entire stockpile of strategy that they've been going for, which is basically setting them to square zero. Maybe they draw something good out of it. Maybe they had a bad hand to start with. If they've been preparing for 5 turns and you get to unprepare them, they're pretty screwed. Thirdly, this card is essentially unstoppable. Because of the in that case wording, your opponent discarding their hand is a cost, which means when this card is put into play, they discard their hand before they can respond to the effect. So, for example, you put this card into play and you say you are putting its effect on the chain by paying the cost of discarding your opponent's hand. Your opponent then discards their hand, and then the effect of drawing cards equal to the number they discarded -1 applies and is resolved theoretically. So there is essentially almost no way to stop this from going off. You cannot comp strengths or dehydration this because you won't have a hand to do that. The only way you can really do it is if you have some sort of negate on the field that you can chain to it. And even then, if you chain it, you're just not going to be drawing, which is bad for you. So there's really no way to stop this. Thirdly, its second effect, your opponent's non-surge ninjas get -2 entrance cost, is extremely good, not only because it will turn off a lot of abilities, one of which is the ability to go out into reinforcements. For example, you can't go into Naruto Sage mode because your turn 3 Naruto on the field is now a turn 1 Naruto, and it doesn't meet the requirements for the sacrifice. It also stops certain jutsus from being used. If you have a jutsu that says it's usable by Sasuke turn 3 or more, your Sasuke is now no longer a turn 3 or more, so you can't use that jutsu. So this is very, very, very disruptive. But the fourth reason, exclusively specific to this deck, is that when your opponent's non-surge ninjas are -2 entrance cost, that is 2 fewer entrance costs you have to meet with your reverse Tetragram Jutsu. So if you recall, reverse Tetragram Sealing Jutsu has you add up the total entrance cost of your opponent's ninjas and then compare that to the entrance cost of the ninja that used this and discard them up to that many times. So if your Temari and Gaara is on the field and your entire opponent's field is turn 2 ninjas, they're now all turn 0 ninjas, and they are all free to discard with this jutsu. So it's a 1-2 punch of incredible power, and if you can get it off, it's very devastating. This is the tech that a lot of reverse Tetragram decks use specifically. So not having to use it with this Temari and Gaara, because this will be discarded and won't keep its effect while it is using reverse Tetragram, means that you can use it to its full effect and just decimate your opponent. So that's pretty much everything with the deck. Obviously, there are some other reinforcements you could do. There's like there's Tsunade and Sakura's that you could do, but honestly, you kind of want all your Sakuras to be on the field anyway, as well as your Tsunades. So it's not really worth going into. But that's pretty much everything that is available. And yeah, there's not really much else that I would swap out or consider adding to this deck specifically. So hopefully you enjoyed one of the more meta picks. I'm trying to get some cards for my other decks because I really don't like showing proxies. So I did kind of go into a more serious deck again, even though the last one I had was also another competitive deck. But yeah, if you like this deck and want to see more competitive decks, want to see more meta decks, leave a like down below, subscribe, and we'll post more videos in the near future. Try to do it every 2 weeks or so. Leave any comments down below of decks you want to see. I still have about 6 or so, and I'm always looking for new decks. And once I run out, I don't know, I'm going to be building more. I built a new deck since I started this YouTube excursion. So yeah, there's always more coming, and hopefully I will see you in whatever we are doing next time. Bye.